Started the video, videos playing.
Started the video.
Who are you?
Hey, this is Greg.
And I'm Mark.
And this is 2GeeksThinking. Oh, don't tell them that yet. We're going to be talking about the 4 elements of design today, and we sum this up as
C.R.A.P.
which means
Contrast.
Repetition,
Alignment.
and proximity.
Perfect.
So those 4 design elements actually help you lay out elements on a page, whether it's a website or a print media.
You know, really anything. Even if you lay it out an airport. Anything.
Yeah, I guess you could use it to lay out an airport. So let's go through them really quickly. These 4 simple elements will give you a much better edge in terms of design as far as laying out a website that is easy to navigate and brands you a little. So let's start with contrast. So what's contrast all about?
Well, I think of an example. Contrast is all about
the
difference, the really impactful thing that an element makes.
Right, okay. So if we look at the thing really quick, we can notice that there's a big square at the top that says image, and there's a big square at the bottom which says CTA, which means call to action. And in between we have a couple of lines which represent headings. So using the elements of contrast on a page help you identify where to look first, second, third, and last, basically.
If there's only one image on the page,
that's a high contrast because there's only one image. Yes, it's
really
unique.
a pull.
That's right.
And a great example of this is the call to action. If you have a website with a very basic black and white color scheme, using a popping like red or orange or yellow that doesn't appear anywhere else on the website, really draws the person in.
So if you had a black and white website with like blue headings or something like that, you would make the call to action color
like red or orange.
Red or orange, because and of all of the elements on that page, the only thing that will be red or orange is
the call to action.
The call to action color. The hot color, as I call it. Anyway, the whole principle here is that users know where to look. And they know where to look first because the image grabs the attention, which we call engagement and user experience. And then as they read down the page vertically, they're going to see those blue headings pop out from the black and white text, right? Which means that they're going to be able to scan vertically much easier. So the contrast is helping them actually scan pages. And then the contrast at the bottom says this is special, which means that this is a button and it's what to do next.
Exactly.
So that's contrast. We're down 25%. Let's talk about repetition. What's repetition all about?
What's repetition?
So, as you can see, we have 2 boxes, one at the top, one at the bottom again, and in the middle we have bullets. So the H means header and the F means footer. So let me use my pointer actually. So what is a repetition of color between the header and the footer?
Let's say they're both green.
Okay.
So the website starts green and ends green.
That's right.
Thus the content in the middle is not green, and you know where it is.
That's right. So if you're scanning rapidly down a page, people can navigate that page by saying the header says start reading, the footer means stop reading. And because they're the same color, the repetition kind of pulls that through. You know that you're supposed to start and stop with the green color. Once that's encoded in somebody's head, every single page they go to, they will have the same effect, and that means they're going to speed up the navigation, which means they can induce engagement faster. So the overall principle with repetition is that you create a cohesive look. And this also leads to branding. So if your logo is, say, green, every time you see anything that's green, anywhere throughout your website, you're going to have that little call to memory that says, oh yeah, the brand is green. It happens implicitly without the person's knowledge. They're not conscious of it, but that is in fact a repetition element. So that's repetition element. Halfway down. Let's talk alignment. What's the example for alignment?
Columns.
Columns.
I know something.
So, yes you do. Especially when you do the video a couple of times. So, there are 3 columns here, and you can see that there are 2 very strong vertical lines, and that the columns are relatively even widths. Okay, and you kind of can't see it here, but it says column 1, column 2, column 3. C1, 2, 3. And what can we say about column 1, 2, and 3?
That they're even, so thus they're most important. Evenly important.
Evenly important, right. So this is just as important as this is just as important as this. And all 3 of these columns, if they have hyperlinks associated with them, are children of the page that the columns are actually on.
Usually there'll be more to it.
This is a really great way actually to take a lot of information that you want to place on that page and break it down into digestible bits.
Hey, doesn't newspapers do that?
You know what? That's exactly right. So alignment actually is exactly why newspapers are laid out the way they are. They might not have exactly even columns, but generally speaking, those even columns help people read because they don't have to track their eye back and forth as much.
The reason they're uneven,
usually
the more important ones
are going to have a fatter heading and they're going to have a slightly wider column.
And that stands true here too.
That does. So what's the overall encompassing concept of alignment?
It's easier to read.
It's easier to read. 75% of the way down. Now, proximity.
Proximity.
So the example that we're going to use for proximity is, there are 2 A's and 2 B's on this page, right?
Yes.
One of the A's and B's is very close together. One of the A's and B's is very far apart. And you can see that these just feel like they're more associated with one another. In fact, down at the bottom of the page it says A, B, P. We were just using the P for proximity, and we put a circle around it to contrast it from the elements on this page. But the A, B, and P almost look like they're together because they're all...
I think the B and the P actually look a lot more together than A. It's just...
That's just because you have stock in British Petroleum.
Don't tell anybody that.
Okay. So, proximity makes many elements into one. And an example of this would be, very simply, putting a whole bunch of circles together like this. Obviously, all those circles are associated with one another in some functional way. Even if you didn't have the circle around them, right?
Even if the circle wasn't there, you'd still know, hey, these are together, and if there was space, oh, might not be together.
Right, exactly. So you can use the anti-proximity, which is distance, to say that these elements are not associated with one another, right? So it's just as important in reverse as proximity is distance. So you could say the farther away you take 2 elements from one another, the less related they are to one another. The closer those elements are together, like say menu items, the more they are associated with one another.
So example would be main menu and submenu. Submenu needs to be close to there, or
that's a perfect example. Yeah, the title subtitle thing that you were talking about before.
Same thing. A
Big title, and then slightly smaller text underneath it. That is maybe more of a long sentence of the title, maybe describing the title. But those are always put very close to one another.
But not touching.
And often the same color, right?
Often.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
So that's it. Contrast, repetition. What's the A?
Alignment. Just kidding.
And
Alignment and
proximity.
Find us on Twitter, Facebook. I'll throw envelopes at you if you don't. Bye.
Those are my envelopes.